Quadratic expressions. In this short video, I'm going to introduce the word quadratic. Now, I'm assuming you're familiar with linear expressions. When you see something like 2x plus 5 or 3x minus 4, or even just something that has only one term like 7x. Now, these are all called linear expressions. So, what are linear expressions? When you graph them, if you write this as y equal to 2x plus 5, then this is in the form mx plus b. And sometimes the b is going to be 0. So, these are linear expressions precisely because the highest power of the variable x is 1. And we don't normally write x power 1, but really if you see 2x plus 5, it's 2x to the 1 plus 5, and similarly it's 3x to the 1 minus 4, and this is 7x to the 1. So if the highest power is 1, then it's called a linear expression. In a quadratic expression, the highest power is 2. So something like 3x square. So this is a quadratic expression, but a quadratic expression can have lower power terms as well. So 3x square, maybe I'll say minus 5x plus 6. So that is a quadratic expression. It's going to have an x square term in it. It's going to have a second power, and it can have first power and the constant term. Constant term does not have any x, so this actually has x power 0. So the exponent of this term is 0. Here it's 1 and here it's 2. So if the highest power can go up to 2, you call it a quadratic expression. Now, what are some other examples of quadratic expressions? Let's say 2x square minus 7. Now notice here I don't have an x term, but that's okay. The highest power is 2 and I have a constant term. And sometimes I may have an x term like 3x square plus 5x. This has a second power term and a first power, but no constant term. Now, sometimes you may have just the second power term, so something like 4x square, or even x square. So these are all quadratic expressions. So what are quadratic expressions? An expression in which the highest power of the variable is 2. Now, if you were to graph this, you're not going to get a straight line because these are not linear equations, or these are not linear expressions. We don't have an equation yet, but we will first talk about expressions, and then in subsequent videos we'll talk about quadratic equations and quadratic functions. So when we have quadratic functions, we can talk about how do you graph them, or if you have quadratic equation, we want to know how to solve them. So all of that will come in later videos. In this short video, I only wanted to introduce the term quadratic, and that's what it means. Quadratic expressions where the highest power is x square. Now, in general, you may have all three terms. You may have a highest power of 2 term, of degree 1 term, and a degree 0 term. So in general, a quadratic expression looks like this: ax square plus bx plus c. Now here, a, b, c are numbers. So a, b, c are real numbers. Now, later in a later video, you'll see that if you have a quadratic equation, there is a formula that can solve any quadratic equation in general. But for now, just know that a quadratic expression looks like this: ax square plus bx plus c. And A, B, C are real numbers, but notice either B or C or both could be 0, but A cannot be 0. A could be either positive or negative. I did not write any expression, but let's introduce one more here. Negative x square. Yeah. I don't want you to think that x square always has a positive coefficient. You can have a negative coefficient as well. So only thing is if a is 0, that means you don't have a quadratic expression. You only have a linear expression. So that's why a cannot be 0. So that's all I have in this video. There are no practice problems, and I'll see you in another video where we will do a lot more with quadratic expressions. Thank you.